distinguished guests from overseas, thank you for giving us time in this life of our country to come and visit us, to give us some help. Minister Maru, as always, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, to be presenting this, what is basically a very quiet, unmentioned agenda, but the most important in terms of getting identities done. Governor Rufina Peters, Minister Seroy, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. What I'll do here is to basically take you through a few things that we want to do, and I'll just give some background on the Civil and Identity Registry, an important function of government. And before I proceed, as you know, a lot of projects were wound down this year due to shifting of priorities by government, but we would like to say thank you very much to the Rosso Marape government for giving us the funding to continue with the NID project. We basically perform three functions. We give a person an identity, which can be used for many things. We give the government a chance to collect and provide governance data that comes with it. And we give the statistics that come with it for development, and basically call the evidence-based planning, which is what the SEZ is trying to do now. To date, the numbers are a bit wrong here, I didn't change that slide, but we just 2.8 million as of 2.9 million as of last year we registered over 8 years now. The change came in the initial 3 years was only 300,000 registered, and when Minister Maru was the Minister for National Planning, he decided to change management of the civil registry. And that's when the numbers started moving, and we managed to register basically about 2.7 million in 4 years. So that's with a much lower budget than the initial budget that was allocated for the project. And as you can see there are some stats that you could look up, and for visitors from overseas. We got 22 provinces in this country, 96 districts. As of late, 89 before that, plus 7 just added on. We haven't changed a couple of our data sets at the moment to accommodate the 7, but that's work in progress, basically with the Department of Local Level Government. I think the most important takeaway on this is that we printed 1.1 million NID cards, and in that room that we hold these blank cards, 25% of it's gone, 20% of it's gone. So there's a space there, which correlates with the data that comes from the printing service. We are probably one of the only projects in government that was started, died. All the other projects died away. We managed to keep it going, and to date, I can tell you NID project of the Civil and Identity Registry is alive and well. We've given out about 2.1 million birth certificates that's signed, and that's for adults plus children. Our registration pattern at the moment, and those in the LLGs and over at the SEZ, I think it's good to focus on getting kids to register. Most of the time, we tend to leave children out. And the pattern we see here is about 26-27% of the registration comprises persons under 18 years of age. We're doing a lot of work in the background, but basically what is important is that Yangoru-Saussia district completed NID registration on the 18th of May 2021, which was what we were trying to do at that time, was to collect the data and map it against the electoral roll and see how the numbers add up. That's still work in progress and ably supported by the district through Honourable Richard Morrow at the moment. Just of late, a young, vibrant MP walked into Parliament and walked into our office and asked us to complete Unggai-Bena. Honourable Theo, Vice Minister for Strategic Planning, and we were so impressed with him. As soon as he gave us the check to start, he was still preparing the check. We started before he gave us the check. And I'm glad to announce that as of March, we completed Unggai-Bena starting in November. And that's a registration of just under 50,000 people. Those of you who think collecting data in PNG is cheap, think again. It's not cheap. The data we collect collects 3 generations, sometimes 4 generations of family tree information. The Monte Carlo, Maru that went down, video Maru that went down, we got data in our archives telling us who was on that boat at that time too. So those are information that the Prime Minister will release shortly, because the country of departure is where the death certificate is issued, of the last scene. So we've done some work in our archives. We tend to get ministers that walk in and want support, and we're now moving in the North Fly area as to try and complete North Fly. And James Donald, Honourable James Donald, has been one of our champions as of late. And we've been moving as fast as we could to accommodate that. Even with the current budget, we still managed to get things done. I think one of the things that I must say is we were lucky that Octedi came on board and did the Octedi footprint. And this is a message to you developers that come in here, that before you put in a project, make sure you get the people of the land registered, because that's the only asset that our people have in the villages. The time has come now where you see muscle power is taking over traditional stories that guides persons to a land. Muscle power, gun power, whatever power is taking over the original tie into the land. Only NID and the registration of the generational data will put you on the right path. And so we ask that when development work takes place in this country, please help us to do a registration, just like what Octedi did. We registered 70,000 people on the Octedi footprint. They paid us 9 million kina, they held it in trust over there. We just supply staff and they helped out meet the cost. And if you look at that, that's just under 200,000 kina for one NID, 200 kina for just one NID registration. If you look at Mosby, that's probably about 5 kina, 6 kina, but if you add on the cards, then you're looking at average about 12 kina, just to do Mosby. So it's not a cheap business, and those keyboard perceptionists that keep attacking NID and saying that it's so easy to do it, well, we got a story to tell you. It's not that simple. I have 455 staff as of last year, December 31st, and some of these graduates are very smart kids. Our thinking is that if we get the smart kids off the street, give them employment, the crime rate will go down. It's a bit hard to see here, but you can see up at the top. Those are our processes here: NID registration, data transportation, data entry, approvals, printing, and issuance. It's a complex beast down there. Members of Parliament that comes first time to visit us are actually shocked by the amount of work that we put in to make things proper and done properly. So we don't just run to get you an NID card in 5 minutes. That's not our business. We collect your data, and depending on how fast the machines go, the old machines will do about 25 registrations a day. The new ones we're developing now would probably take us up to 50 a day. So, the red lines there tell you where the problem areas are. So if the NID registrations coming in, that we register the people at the SEZ come in, and there's no priority given, you'll be joining the queue. Unless, of course, you fund a team that looks after you. If you do that, go very quickly, we can turn you around in 10 working days. And we do have some VIPs where we give them a one-day turnaround, sometimes 3. But they pay a small fee of 40 kina. We're not like the others that charge you 300 kina. And this is our footprint around PNG. We have the provincial offices, regional offices in Agen, Kokopo, Ley, and Konidobo. All the others are districts. As you can see, we have 3 operational districts now. That's Yangoru-Saussia, Kiunga, and Pomio. Yes, we're in Pomio. And this is the registration pattern that we've been doing over the years. As you can see, it was very slow. In 2017, when Minister Maru took over national planning, that's when we start to increase our registration numbers. And the other diagrams that sits there, you can see later in your notes, it's basically saying those that have been processed, and the others are basically the cumulative data per year, and at the same time some that are waiting to be processed. Challenges we have a bill going to Parliament now. It's going to be brought before NEC shortly by Minister Samalili. And what we're trying to do in that bill is, and those of you in government would know that all our acts don't allow us to share data, especially the public domain data. So what this act is doing is it's going to Parliament to cause rippling changes on all the other agencies like NSO, like National Electoral Commission, to cause them to share some public domain data when it comes around. At this point in time, everybody is operating with data in a vertical silo. Registration costs about 25 kina. The other 25 kina is the back-end stuff. We have a number of issues relating to current system, the way it's designed. And a lot of people, including a lot of consultants, walk in and tell us to replace the system. 2 problems relating to that. Number 1, where do you get the money? Number 2, where's your human capital to make sure you carry it and make it work? The human capital we got is trained with the current system, so we need to flog the dying systems and keep it breathing. So that's what we do. And this is the lock-in we keep talking about. It's a little bit difficult, a bit technical, so I'll just go past that. Development to date, we got a young team now developing all our processes, and we've done a lot of 48 people were changed this week to see if the process can speed up. So we're not sleeping over there. We run KPIs on all our staff, and we monitor them and we pay them according to the KPIs. The gratuity of the managers are paid on the KPIs based on the KRAs, based on the corporate plan. So all these things are linked together, and we do deduct pay. We've basically done a lot of other stuff, but I think that's a little bit over the top on this. Just one thing I want to add on the last bullet on the left-hand side. Our Deputy Registrar graduated with the MBA from UPNG last week and topped the class. So she's on the top of the class. And she did it part-time, mother fully loaded with work, and she balanced herself, and she got through a degree, and at the same time she also did very exceptionally well, and we're so proud of her. Our deputy, the director in charge of corporate services, is also submitted an MPhil to Unitec and will be graduating next year. On top of that, we got a couple of kids come out last week out of SELAG with advanced diplomas, so we're excited. One thing that we want to share in this room, maybe not the visitors, but the opportunity like this, it's good to talk about culture of savings. Our public service don't have a culture of savings. Pay in, pay out, run broke, be known and live on. And true. You know. So what we've done with these young people is we register between 30 downwards, and we make sure each one of them, as part of their KPI, must save 1,000 kina by the end of the year. How they do it, it's up to them. So we're starting to see our kids now. We used to have loan sharks running out around the fence now. The perimeters of the premises are now not there anymore. So that's a good story to tell. And for your information, we started the savings culture in 2020, and come 2022, the total savings that's sitting with the number one savings and loans is actually 2.5 million kina from these kids who don't have more than public service. So on the 17th of March, we put in a new storage server. We are thankful to the Chinese government. We had 4 machines that were analyzed on the technical capability, and the Huawei machine came out on top. And Minister Samanelli asked the Chinese government to help with some funding, a donation, and they gave us 500,000 kina, and the machines was sold at 800,000 kina, and we got it installed, tested, and commissioned with only 300,000 kina from our PIP. So that's a new system. We put in more capacity now, and it's giving us speed 4 times faster than the old systems. And this is the server that's sitting there. It's quite a lot of memory sitting at the back end. The reason why we do this, that's the old kits we use. And this is the new kits that's coming up with artificial intelligence built into it to basically copy a picture and drop it into a file to take the processing time down from 12 to 30 minutes down to 5 minutes. Purpose. Collaboration, we actually help the Department of Personal Management to clean out the Alesco payroll of all the people who shouldn't be on the payroll. We did some work with Electoral Commission at Barena, Ward 5, to test out the systems there. We are assisting MPs with seasonal labor registrations, and there's a whole heap of them sitting there you can look at. So what's the policy direction of the government now is to register 95% of the country by our Jubilee, our Golden Jubilee. I don't know whether you can see that, but the top line is actually the growth rate at 3.2%. And the bottom one is sitting at all these numbers that we got to say, if we do this, what happens? The green line right at the bottom is the registration that's supposed to be getting a steep increase. If not, we won't meet that policy objective of government. And this again drawings that show a couple of things that you may do. So what does this all mean? We need to register 7 million people in 2.75 years. We need 400 kits. 400 kits would do us 200,000 registrations a month. That's 2.4 million minimum a year. And that would require basically about 500 to 700 staff, additional staff. Thank you to Goa. We now got the office allocation at the Twin Towers, the first floor and the second floor. We're getting another data entry center being outfitted. And obviously, as I keep saying, I have a very young staff here. And probably the oldest one there is me, and I think they're waiting to see me go quickly. We think it's going to cost between 300 to about 100 million kina a year, but we need to start doing numbers to see how that's going to turn out. Numbers are numbers, but practical reality is something else. Going forward, a lot of stuff there on the digital arena. Now this is going to impress you. This is of concern to you. We're looking at Karamuni because I had something to do with it, and it's one of the most remotest part of the country. It's as difficult to get to as telephone. So that's the Cebu province, or SEZ. And down at the bottom there is the Karamui Nomane district. I think it's broken up now. We haven't got the data from Department of Provincial Government to put that in. And Karamui is sitting right down at the bottom there. What we're trying to do is we're trying to look for the modeling that comes with, say, 500 people, village and more. So we set this up and we draw the rings around a collection point where it's 2 hours walk from our nearest village. So if a person can walk 2 hours, we can do registration at that place. So those yellow circles you see is basically a modeling that goes with that. And this we do for every province in the country. Now the numbers that we have come up, as you probably cannot see, but I think you will see the 6 different districts in Cebu. And right at the bottom on the left-hand side, where it says about 76,000 is the projected data on a 3.2% growth rate per annum. And we think that Karamuni, probably Nomane would probably have about 66,000 people. And to do that, we got some numbers for you, Minister. We think it's gonna 76,000 people projected to 2023. Let me again qualify our data. We're actually going off the 2011 data from the NSO, the census 2011. Whether that's right or wrong, I leave it to you. We think we send in 5 kids, 7 staff members. It will take 222 registrations a day. And if we do pile it up properly, we can get higher numbers. But I think we could basically do Karamui in about 300 days. That's with 5 kids. If you load it with 20 kids, that's 4 times less. So everything depends on the kids we have, and the data I showed you before only is done with 56 kids. We need 400. So if some donors are sitting here and you got a check to sign, I'm willing to talk to you. And you don't give us the check, you pay directly to the supplier of the equipment, we'll just use the equipment. We think the total cost of doing Karamuni, Nomane is about, I call it wrong there, would be about just under 4 million kina. Challenges in SEZ registration, back-end processes takes a long time. Renewal of the data has to be taking place every 10 years. Now, how do we renew those people in 2015, in 2025? That's another challenge. So we got to find some smart ways of doing that. And sometimes the data is wrong, how do we correct it? And I'm sure some of you here in the room now have run me up personally to get data corrected. We have a system that's designed with what we call in engineering an encryption set of keys that belongs to somebody else. And at this point in time, we haven't got those keys, we can't do anything much on the system. So we need to basically create a new set of encryption keys but that's something else we need to do. And I think, just on the note of where this project runs, and civil and identity registration, we're probably the only country in the world that does both in one-stop shop. All the others, you go somewhere else to get identity, you go somewhere else to get civil registration. And it's very hard to move the data together. I think one of the things that I need to stress now is if you have older people in your tribe, especially in the SEZ areas, please let's register them. Because NIDs, we usually say, it tells in talk pisin, when a master diwa you come learn. The fruit falls down, gets collected in the river, grows somewhere else, and then we follow the tree bed. So it's basically which land did that tree stand on, and that's where the SEZ becomes very important. I think go forward, we are collecting remote sensing data now, and we'll be talking to the department on where the SEZs are going, and we can do a little bit more desktop planning of this stuff. I think the main thing is to get the coordination working at the SEZ area, and the involvement of members, open members is very important, and the district and provincial governments. I think we will be setting from after independence to now, those data collection has never taken place, even though we had a department that was supposed to do that. So with NID, it's gone back up now, and we're starting to collect data and building up archives. So in the bottom line on all this presentation, I'm sorry I'll go up a little bit longer, but we are here to help. Going forward, we just acknowledge our sponsors, Opteli, ENP, Pacific-Agro. I forgot to put also the Days of Church of Latter Day Saints were also our good employees, partners, Pacific-Agro, NPPOL, DFED, and there's all names of them. If you got an NID problem, we have a kid sitting there next door. Come down there. If you haven't registered, come down there. You make time available tomorrow night, and we will fix it up. Thank you, Laharam Lipa.